Hey, thank you for joining me here at the Big Rand Show. Welcome to In the News, the segment where I discuss some of the top news topics of the week. We're going to start off with Reverend Jesse Jackson, who apparently he and his wife have been hospitalized due to COVID. Apparently they've been vaccinated, but they're older, of course, and I believe he could be immunocompromised. With apparently he was diagnosed with Parkinson's a few years ago, so it's a little more dangerous, I think, for somebody in his condition. But he and his wife have both been hospitalized after positive COVID test, and I wish them well. I hope they recover from this stupid virus that people are allowing to spread. And even now, the people that are doing the right things are getting sick from it, and it's not right. They sit there and talk about how we need to just, if we're scared of it, we just need to stay inside, but they don't think about the repercussions of that, do they? You know, we still have to survive. We still have to get out and do things we don't, even if we don't want to. But Jesse Jackson is the face of a civil rights organization, so he can't just go hide himself away somewhere. So he's out in public. But this is unfortunately what's going on. You got a lot of breakthrough cases going on right now, but hopefully, because he's got the vaccine, hopefully he and his wife will do fine. I'll bring more updates as they are given. Also in the news, there's a hurricane. I thought it was Hurricane Henry, but apparently it's Henri. But it is headed to the northeast, going to possibly hit New York and the New England area as of later tomorrow on Sunday. As we remember, the last time a big storm hit the New York area, Hurricane Sandy, things did not go well for people. It just ravaged the city and caused billions in damage and caused a lot of problems for the people there. So obviously this is not a good situation, but hopefully this storm will be weaker than Hurricane Sandy was. I think it's going to be like last I checked, Category 1 when it makes landfall, not like a Category 3 or 4 or anything. So hopefully it'll be better than some of the storms they've had to deal with, and hopefully they'll be able to get over it pretty quickly and move on. It's really not a good time to be having hurricanes hitting areas, because it's going to cause more people to have to huddle together and be close together to work on getting things fixed and working again, which is going to there again create a breeding ground for the Delta variant to continue ravaging this country. But at the end of the day, it is like I said, not as weak or not as strong. It's weaker than the last storm that hit there with Hurricane Sandy, and everything should be okay. And we will just have to, play it by ear and see what happens. I wish everybody luck. I hope everybody is taking the precautions they need to as the storm approaches, and hope everyone stays safe. Now, onto a bigger news story that has been breaking all week. I made a video about it earlier in the week, but things on the ground have gotten worse. Apparently, Afghanistan has gone into a bigger mess than it even was when I made that video earlier in the week. At this point, the Biden administration is considering getting commercial jetliner companies to help usher refugees out of Afghanistan. We've got lots of people there, lots of American people, our troops. Before Trump even left office, our troop levels were down to 2,500. We've had to send troops back in to help evacuate people. Nobody expected the Taliban to take over like they did, or as quickly as they did. But of course, as I mentioned, the Taliban was talking about how they'd be a nicer group of people, that they respect women more, blah, 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 blah. It's a bunch of lies. Don't let anyone tell you that they've changed. They're exactly the same as they were. They're just as repressive as they were before. Just as much of hypocrites as they were before. They said they would give women more rights, let them go back to work, but guess what they did yesterday? They chased a woman who worked as an anchor at a news channel in Afghanistan, chased her off, and forced her to shut her down. Why? Because she was a woman and she wasn't wearing a burqa, among other things. There's been a lot of talk about what we've left over there, the weaponry. But of course, that Taliban had already gotten a hold of a lot of our stuff from previous times when the weapons that we had given to the Afghan security forces were just left on the roadside and they ran away from the Taliban in the past. I had read that they already had a good stash of our M16s and stuff like that long before the fall of Afghanistan last week. As of 2015, they had I think it was over 1.2 million pieces of our, pieces of firepower of ours that they had stolen or gotten a hold of or whatever through people who had quit and things like that. So us leaving a few things around like that isn't really a big issue. They talk about how people are complaining and crying about how we left helicopters and planes and trucks and stuff like that, but you're not going to be able to get it all back. You're leaving a war zone, for crying out loud. What did they expect to happen? That we were going to come back and bring every little piece back? We didn't bring every little piece back from Iraq. It's a matter of, cost-benefit analysis there. Is it worth taking? From everything I've seen, everything I've read, most of the things that were left were things of old technology that our enemies already have a hold of, that the Taliban isn't going to be able to use because they don't know how to use the technology, because, not to mention, the things that had the more powerful and the newer technologies were removed. Even the things that were left that had those technologies had them removed. Yeah, they left the A-29, some A-29s there, which are very low, low range airplane from what I've seen. From what I've read, they're not like something that we're all going to be getting attacked from. They're not going to be getting out really too far outside of Afghanistan. And the Taliban doesn't really seem to have expansionist, plans, right? When they controlled Afghanistan before, they did not care to expand their borders. They cared to rule their territory, and that was where they stopped. But it's not abnormal, apparently, from what I've been reading, for the military to leave pieces of hardware behind that they don't deem as important. And some things that they did leave that were important, they planned possible airstrikes later, if necessary. Because there were some things they didn't get out in time. But you want to place the blame solely on one president when we've had 4 that oversaw this war? You had Donald Trump, who took us all the way down to 2,500 troops. So you can't expect us to have been able to help defend Afghanistan as we were leaving. Now, there was a miscalculation clearly on whether or not the Afghan forces were strong enough and of enough number to be able to fight the Taliban. But most cities fell without a shot. They were either cowards or just out fought, I guess, or whatever. I don't know what you would call it. But it's kind of sad how that all went down. But all these news people on the left and the right, claiming, telling people to be scared of all these weapons that we supposedly left there. There's nothing to be scared of it. None of it's coming back here. None of it's going to attack us here. Yes, they got some armored personnel carriers. They got some helicopters of old technology. Things they may or may not even know how to fly. And if we have to, we can always bomb those locations where those items are at. But from what I'm reading, the worst thing that we left behind was some biometric data and stuff of like translators and stuff like that helped us. If anyone needs to be worried, it'd be the people that are in, their data that is in that. Because they could be tracked down by the Taliban for helping us and, be jailed or worse. So I'm more concerned about those people than I am what we left behind. I'm far more concerned about the translators and the other Afghan people that worked with the U.S. forces and the coalition forces to try to stabilize Afghanistan. And then I was watching a video from Bo of the Fifth Column, his channel, of course, Bo of the Fifth Column. He's a very knowledgeable guy, very smart guy. Um, I will try to get you a link to one of his videos in my description below. He'll give you a far better, far more intellectual discussion of what has taken place. But he goes on to explain in one of his videos that it's not that big of a deal. It's not something that's abnormal, right? It's not something that we don't normally do because we do leave things around. But he goes through and he discusses the planes, everything that we've left, and how it's not a big deal. He also explains in one of his videos that we never trained Afghanistan to be able to defend itself. We trained Afghanistan to be able to survive while we're helping it. And then when we were done with it, they would be left to their own devices and everything was going to be the way it is. We didn't train them to be able to stand on their own and defeat the Taliban. In fact, we knew that within 6 months to a year or two, that the Taliban would fully take over the entire country. We didn't expect it in a week and a half. Now, I think anybody would realize that the 2-year mark would have been a little much, right? But you'd have at least figured a month or two. But no, not even a month or two. And it's just really sad how that has fallen apart. At last check, things aren't really going better. We're at least getting more. We've got the airport secure. We've got planes going out. We've got people being evacuated, but it's not happening nearly fast enough. And there are people there are Taliban fighters blocking people's path to the airport, trying to make them stay, even though they have the paperwork to be leaving with the U.S. forces. And unfortunately, the U.S., because we don't have enough people there, the U.S. military cannot ensure safety from Kabul into the airport, which is absolutely asinine. But we don't have enough people there. We're supposed to be sending some 6,000 troops back in to help stabilize this stuff, and apparently they're at the airport, but they're not outside the airport, making sure people can get to where they're going. And if the Taliban was actually a governing force that they're claiming to be, and claiming to be more moderate, they'd be letting these people get to the airport and leave like they're supposed to. That's more reason not to believe that the Taliban has changed in any way, shape, or form. They're exactly the same as they were 20 years ago. They're no different. And that brings me up to another point. And to show you that here at the Big Ranch Show, we do our best to hold everyone's feet to the fire. There was a claim that Joe Biden made in a speech last week, saying that that Al-Qaeda was completely gone from Afghanistan. This is not true. The fact is there are still some 200, 300 Al-Qaeda connected fighters in Afghanistan right now. So the Al-Qaeda is not completely gone. And as we've learned, it doesn't take a huge network to cause damage here. But the fact is, we couldn't stay there and keep fighting nonstop. We spent almost $2 trillion in Afghanistan. And we've gotten nothing out of it, except being able to maybe have access to some of the lithium that they have buried in some areas of Afghanistan. And so we don't have anything really there for us to keep fighting for. We got the person we were looking for a long time ago, back during the Obama administration in 2011. We should have left then. We should have been pulling out and leaving during the Obama administration. But this is also why you don't negotiate with terrorists. Because they're always going to lie. The Taliban will always lie. The Trump administration held high-level talks with the Taliban directly without the Afghan government as part of the equation. The fact that the Bush administration decided they would start a second war as opposed to finishing what we were doing in Afghanistan, and without turning it into some nation building mess. You know, our military is good at winning the war. We're not good at maintaining the peace. We're not good at nation building. It's not something our troops are trained for. It's not what we do. And maybe it's wrong to invade a nation and not help them rebuild. But at the same time, what can you do? We went in, got the people that were responsible for 9/11, and by 2011, we should have been done with it. But I really don't understand how all these people can sit here and, cry and blame one president when it was 4 presidents who didn't get us out of the situation. Donald Trump started the withdrawal. This is fact. This isn't just trying to pile on to Donald Trump. He did what he should have done, which was try to get us out. I disagree with his methods of doing it, but we still needed to leave Afghanistan. Did the Biden administration make a blunder or a miscalculation? Yes, they did. But at the same time, this is how it was going to go no matter who was president or when we pulled out. If we had pulled out during Donald Trump's timeline for May, we would have been in the same boat. If he had pulled out in December when he was still president, it would have looked the same. There's a reason he kicked the ball to May instead of January of last year. But anyways, thank you for joining me for this episode of In the News. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed some of my outdoor videos. And I hope y'all are having a great day. And I'll see you down the road.